My advice to young people is, first of all, get yourselves educated if you can, and stay in school as long as you can. I think they should always look for opportunities to make a difference. First, start with their own friends and those around them in schools, etc., and then in their community. But also then to start to look at those that don't have what they have. Because if you're talking to these young people, maybe they're people who have been a little more privileged. And I think that, especially in the developing world, the privileged don't necessarily think about the less privileged. I think the issues that young people need to agitate about is good governance, corruption eradication, but I think a lot of social issues need to be addressed and should involve young people, like gender issues, gender equalities or inequalities. I think it makes a huge difference if boys also understand what their role in society and in the family and in their relationships are. And the girls also know their own rights and that they have also options in life. And, in our societies, all the girls are taught that their security in life comes from marriage, from having a husband who provides economic security, rather than that they are individuals and should be enabled to look after themselves. And I think, if young people start to involve themselves in gender issues, I think that can make a huge difference in the world. So my advice to young people is that be part of the community, part of the country, but part of also of the world. I think for me, the three or four global issues are very simple. Gender issues, inequality, the attention to the young people, their needs and their future, because after all, they're going to be the future population and the leaders, and the attention to population and environment. And the climate change, I think if we address these issues, they make a holistic package. And then they will address, issues like poverty reduction, inequality, and so on. The United Nations has this great convening power. I think everyone feels equal there, so no one is pressured. And once you reach agreement in the United Nations, it is something that is agreed by the entire world community. It's not pushed by any one government. And many of the issues that we now take for granted started as discussion points in the United Nations, including the Convention on Human Rights. The whole concept of human rights started right at the beginning of the United Nations, and then it resulted in all the nations coming together and agreeing on an international convention of human rights, which still stands until today, absolutely applicable and very relevant. Not that everybody has, implemented it, but it's still relevant. The whole issue of population came from the United Nations, the numbers and bringing attention to the numbers, and the fact that there was inequality started in the United Nations first as just research and discussion issues, but later for action. The issue of environment has come from the United Nations. It's still a very controversial issue, but it started in the United Nations and it resulted in the International Conference on the Environment. And nations did come together, forged an agreement. Unfortunately, the agreements have not all been not ratified by all the countries, and certainly the conventions on the various aspects of how to address the environment have not been fully implemented. But they came from the United Nations. And the fact that they came from the United Nations carries a special weight in all of the countries. Well, when I became the executive director of the UNFPA, and that provided me with a world stage to say all the things that needed to be done and to be fearless. And, I didn't have to be scared of anyone. Nobody was going to be able to say anything to me. I had, the standing to state the things that needed to be done. And I had the opportunity to do this at the International Conference on Population and Development, where 180 countries came together and agreed on these very important issues in a what was considered an amazing consensus at the United Nations, in which women's issues, women's rights, the right to reproductive health, family planning, all came together. And indeed, since then, we have made a difference. And the world, as far as women are concerned, is changing, maybe not as rapidly as we would like, but certainly it's going in the right direction. I don't think I've ever seen anyone who's as committed to making the world a better place than he is. And he talks all the time about these issues, no matter what the occasion is. He is very strong on his views on the climate change, on the environment, on making the world a nuclear-free world. Getting rid of nuclear weapons. He said, the nuclear weapons will destroy the world. They're not going to protect anyone, and he's absolutely right. And he says this in a very strong way and believes it and puts his money down. As he keeps bemoaning, I wish I had more money to give and I would give it.